Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, so welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I'll talk about it. This week's game is Feudal Alloy for the PlayStation 4. It was released in 2019 and it's a single-player Metroidvania action-adventure. Developed by Attu Games and also published by Attu Games, and also be spoilers up ahead just so you know, but first a little backstory. Recently PSN had a summer sale and I had to check it out, and one of the games was this one. So it has this design that I like, which incorporates cartoon elements and robots. So the game starts out with a title screen with a robotic body and a fishbowl for a head with a live fish in it, standing off with a cliff, drawn in a hand-style kind of manner. Your options from here are new game and settings and information. So before I start to talk about the game, I need to address something that's been bugging me throughout the week, and that's the lack of information, the lack of lore, if that makes sense. So why are there fish controlling robots? Why is this set in a feudal kind of period? And what happens to the animals and the humans in the first place? This is never addressed. Once you hit new game, you're introduced to the main character Attu. So he owns a sunflower farm where he makes sunflower oil. That was a bit hard to say. So he also takes care of these older robots, and one day the farm gets raided and he's forced to pick up a rusty sword in order to take the oil back. And by the way, this game looks a bit like Mechanarium and Hollow Knight, only drawn by a little kid. So the game starts out underground in this old warway passage. You jump with the X button, you attack with the square button, and if you attack too much, you will actually get fatigued and you have to cool down. So this game has a lot of parallels to the Souls games. It's an even thing that becomes obvious later when you pick up oil. So oil is basically your Estus flasks. So you have to use the oil to recover some lost health in order to pass through some electrical cabling. So this first area of the game acts as the tutorial section. So I went down into the war passage and things got a lot warmer, and you're supposed to have this mechanic as well. When you are heated up, you can't attack things, so you have to cool down. And obviously this is the tutorial section, so they explain to you, you find these cooling cans and you use them to cool down. That in order to break some wood in order to progress. Also, you can pick up other things that are lying on the ground by pushing down on the left stick. And once you're done with the tutorial section, you can actually go outside with grass and trees and everything. So I took out some robots that look really angry, that look like mines. The only way they can really hurt you is if you walk into them. So I opened a door and I went down and I found some treasure. So this game is, well, exploratory, I guess. So you find things along the way. You can also buy things in shops as well. And then I did some more exploring and I found a tent shop, and in here you can buy some upgrades from scrap that you find throughout the game. It's like currency. There's also a funny reference to the parrot sketch from Monty Python because there's a dead parrot in a cage. So the way you save in this game, you walk up to these pillars with a floppy icon on it, and then when you save at these points you get your oil refill and everything. And then I did some more exploring while I went into a dungeon and I found a map. So think of this game as Hollow Knight. So you go into the dungeon and explore. But if you don't have a map in this game, you can be in a new area but you have no idea where you actually are. You are on the map somewhere in the fog, but you don't know, well, where you are. So I did some more exploring and I found a stolen locket. I have no idea what these does, but I guess they're collectibles. And there are a couple of enemies, I forgot to talk about them. You have your basic mines, you have these spider droids looking thing, you have angry mines, you have these flying insects, and you also have these robots that walk around with chainsaws for arms. More exploring, and finally death. So in this game, death is not really a penalty. You keep all the currency that you have and you can basically continue where you left off, more or less. So I picked up a better sword. I don't really have to rely on the grass cutter anymore. So I fought a boss or a couple of enemies. So I guess you call it a boss rush. So I beat those guys and I got a ship so I can progress further into the game. Also picked up some new items, and now I know how to use bomb. And you get new gear once you move along the story. So at this point I felt like the game couldn't give me anymore. It's the same repetitive thing. You open up areas, you get new gear, probably get more items as you go along, but this is more or less what the game is about. So gameplay: help out to get his sunflower oil back from the bandits and save the day. Control: left stick is movement, triangle is block, square is attack, X is jump, and circle is bomb. And the middle bar of the control is inventory. The R1 is the dash ability. Up on the D-pad switches bombs. Left D-pad is oil, right D-pad is cooling, and down on the D-pad is map. Graphics: so this game was made in a Unity engine, and it looks like an early Macromedia Flash game. Think Mechanarium, Hollow Knight, if it had a kid together, and was crudely drawn, if that makes sense. Sound and music. The music was made by Matthew Steeds, and it's a medieval composition. So the way I know about this is not through the Wikipedia page, not the official homepage of the company. I went into the information about the game, and that's the only time they mentioned this guy by name, so I don't know what that was about. Otherwise, the movement of the robots, like the sound effects, it gets really grating on the ear, so I actually have to turn it off for a bit, because every sound that the robot makes is it's a bit too much. Easter egg, secrets, and glitches. So this Easter egg I've already talked about. It's in the tent shop section. So you go into this tent section and there's this robot selling you all kinds of things that you need throughout your adventures. So he has a cage, and in it is a dead parrot. So that's a reference to the Monty Python sketch, well, the parrot sketch. So there's this joke about a parrot being dead, and of course it is dead. So in conclusion, I wrote, yes, play it, but casually. So this game was on the PSN summer sale. It wasn't that expensive. The graphics is simple and charming in my opinion, and the gameplay is easy to grasp. It draws a lot of inspiration from the Soul series and the Metrovanias, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. A good thing about this game is, unlike the Dark Souls game, there's no real penalty of death like losing your souls or scraps or gear. So if you don't have anything to play, you just pick this up for relatively nothing, and I can definitely recommend it. So anyway, thanks for listening and for watching, and take care.